Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. This is my review of The Suicide Squad, the new quasi remake reboot of the 2016 film. Now, there will be spoilers for this movie, so if you want to see it first and then come back, you might want to do that. Now, for simplicity, I'm just going to refer to the new film as Suicide Squad, even though that's not the official name because it's kind of confusing. They both have the same name and all that. I thought the first movie was so-so. It was about half of a good movie and about half of a rather mediocre movie. I think the movie was pretty well cast. Even Jai Courtney evidenced something approaching a personality, but ultimately it just became a CGI mess at the end. Now we're getting a sequel, sort of. There are characters back from the first movie. Joel Kinnaman returns as Colonel Rick Flag. Margot Robbie is back as Harley Quinn. And Jai Courtney returns as Captain Boomerang, and Viola Davis is back again as Amanda Waller. And we get several new characters for this movie, although many of them are killed off so quickly they're barely in the movie at all. We start with Savant, who is played by Michael Rooker, who is in Belle Prison, and he's recruited to the Suicide Squad by Waller. He's added to a team that is composed of Flag and Harley and Boomerang, as well as Nathan Fillion as T.D.K, also known as Arms Fall Off Boy, seriously, Flula Borg as Javelin, Mei Ling Ung as Mongal, Pete Davidson as Blackguard, and Sean Gunn as Weasel. They're sent to Corto Maltese in South America, but they aren't told what the mission is exactly. They're told they'll get more info when they get there. They fly in and get dropped off the coast and swim to shore, but the Corto Maltese military is waiting for them in an ambush. Then Blackguard tries to make contact with them and reveals that he tipped the military off, although it's not clear what his payoff is supposed to be here. Anyway, they immediately kill him, and then it becomes a massacre as most of the team gets killed. T.D.K, Javelin, and Blackguard are all shot. Weasel drowns in the ocean before they even get to shore, and Mongal and Boomerang are both killed by a crashing helicopter. Harley is captured, and Flag manages to escape into the jungle. Then we jump back in time to a few days earlier, and we learn that Waller sent a second team to Corto Maltese. This second team is composed of Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, John Cena as Peacemaker, King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone, and Ratcatcher, played by Daniela Melchior, and Polka Dot Man, played by David Dastmalchian. Waller explains that the country had a recent military coup, and then the ruling family was massacred by a man named General Luna, who now runs the country. The Corto Maltese government has a top-secret project called Project Starfish that involves alien technology, and Waller wants them to destroy it before General Luna can use it to destroy America. It's pretty clearly implied that Waller is behind setting up the first team to get killed so that the military is focused on them while Bloodsport's team is able to enter the country unnoticed, but nothing is really done with that. Shortly after they arrive, however, Waller sends them to find and save Flag, if they can. They arrive at a camp in the jungle and they infiltrate it to find Flag, but it turns out to belong to a group of rebels who want to topple the new military government, and they actually rescued Flag from the military. However, they don't learn this until they've actually killed pretty much the entire camp. Fortunately, the rebels still agree to help them get to the capital. Now, to stop Project Starfish, they need to infiltrate a research facility called Jotunheim, which was built by Nazis who fled to the country after World War II. In order to get into Jotunheim, they need to find and capture the Thinker, the scientist, played by Peter Capaldi, who runs Project Starfish. Now, while all this is going on, we learn that Harley was captured by General Luna's forces, and he romances her and then tries to convince her to marry him. She decides to kill the general instead, and then she gets caught again. Now, they're going to proceed to Jotunheim, but Flag wants to find Harley and insists on rescuing her, so they head for the general's palace. Harley is being tortured, but she manages to escape, killing a few dozen men in the process, and crosses paths with the others just as they're about to mount a rescue, and then they all head for Jotunheim. The Thinker helps them get inside, and then they seal the facility to keep the Corto Maltese military out while they attempt to shut down Project Starfish. While part of the team is planning explosives, another group heads to the lower levels where Project Starfish is located, and it turns out that Project Starfish is Starro the Conqueror, a powerful alien that's been held prisoner in Jotunheim for decades while the Thinkers studied it and tried to figure out ways to weaponize it. And it turns out that he is actually doing this for the American government. The former rulers of Corto Maltese had an arrangement with the U.S. government to host the research so that the U.S. government would have deniability. Now, Flag is disgusted to learn that the U.S. government is behind the whole thing. All of the Thinker's files are on a hard drive, and Flag wants to take the hard drive to the press to expose the whole thing, but Peacemaker was put on the team by Waller precisely to prevent any evidence of the U.S. government's involvement from getting out, and he attacks Flag. They have a pretty brutal fight that ends with Peacemaker killing Flag, which kind of surprised me. Flag is pretty much the center of the team, so I really didn't see his death coming. Then Ratcatcher gets the drive and she tries to escape with it. Peacemaker pursues her and is about to kill her, but then Bloodsport arrives just in time to stop him, and Bloodsport shoots Peacemaker and wounds him in the neck, and Peacemaker seems to bleed to death. Now, while all this was going on, the rest of the team was planting explosives to blow up the whole building, but Polka Dot Man accidentally sets off the explosives and brings the whole building down. This releases Starro, who releases a bunch of his starfish drones that turn people in the capital into his mindless slaves, and who all share a common consciousness with Starro, and then Starro proceeds to attack the capital. Waller orders them to stay on mission and is going to set off the bombs implanted in their heads to stop them, but one of her co-workers knocks her out, and then the rest of the support team assists the squad in fighting Starro. In the end, it's actually Ratcatcher and Harley who defeat Starro and kill it. Bloodsport has the files on Project Starfish uploaded to a secret server, and warns Waller that if anything happens to him or the rest of the team, the files will be released onto the internet, and if she agrees to leave them alone, then the files will stay secret. Waller reluctantly agrees to this, and then we get a scene after the credits showing Peacemaker recovering and setting up his HBO Max series. So overall, I like the movie. I do think it's better than the first Suicide Squad film. It's funnier. The villain is more interesting, it's more stylishly filmed, and generally just more entertaining. Again, the film is well cast, and for the most part, they're good in their roles. This film is actually a pretty good example of doing diversity right. Bloodsport is pushed to the front in this film, especially toward the end, after Flag is killed, and it's the two female characters, Harley and Ratcatcher, who save the day in the end. I think Stallone's voice performance as King Shark is actually quite good. He does a good job of selling King Shark as this sort of giant toddler who also happens to be a bloodthirsty eating machine. And the CGI on King Shark is excellent. Cena is also good as Peacemaker. The character is portrayed as pretty much a psychopath who just uses his patriotism to justify his violence. Cena has a dead serious delivery in his line, this kind of deadpan approach, and even when he's saying ridiculous things, it works well for the character. This film definitely lives up to its name. There's about 15 main characters, not including Waller, and only 5 of them survive. And most of the deaths in this movie are pretty graphic. It's definitely a hard R rating, and it may not be for everybody. If you're easily grossed out, then this movie may not be for you. Heads explode, torsos explode, characters get chopped to bits by a helicopter. King Shark literally rips people limb from limb. He bites heads off. And yeah, it's not for everybody. Now, one thing I like about the film is that it leans into the source material. Starro is a very comic booky character and difficult to pull off, but I think the film does a really good job of it. Gunn also manages to take Polka Dot Man, a very corny character, and makes him tragic and interesting. One of the film's weaknesses is that there are sequences that just go on too long. After Harley escapes, there's a long sequence with her escaping and killing dozens of men in the process. The whole sequence of General Luna trying to romance her also goes on way too long. I understand Harley being able to kill some people, but she's killing dozens of guys, some with her bare hands, and she just seems less like Harley Quinn and more like Deathstroke, or one of those other peak human type characters, and it just goes on and on. There's also a sequence where they go to a strip club to find the Thinker, and this sequence also goes on too long, with slow-mo sequences of the characters dancing and drinking together. Gunn is just a little too self-indulgent at points in this film. So overall, I enjoyed the film, but it is definitely not for all tastes. Now, if this movie isn't bad, then why is it flopping so bad at the box office? I think there are a number of reasons that factor in. I think COVID is obviously a big part of the reason. I also think that there wasn't that much demand for a sequel after the first film, which tends to get lumped in with Justice League and Superman versus Batman in the minds of a lot of people because it came out around that same time. I also wonder if people aren't maybe just getting a little tired of Harley Quinn. This is the third DC film with her in it, and Birds of Prey, the last one, was a flop too, so maybe people just don't like that character that much as maybe Hollywood thinks they do. Personally, I'm a little tired of her, and her role in this film feels a bit shoehorned in anyway. I've heard some people suggest that James Gunn's comments about Gina Carano maybe played a role in it. He supported her being canceled by Disney several months back. Maybe that was part of it, but I don't know if many people even really remember that now. People have such short memories. I've also seen people suggest that John Cena kissing the Chinese government's butt had something to do with it. Maybe, but like with Gunn's comments, I wonder how many people even remember that. And then some have even suggested that it's WB sticking by Amber Heard during this whole Johnny Depp case that has alienated people. Again, maybe that might play a role, but I just really don't think people are really thinking about that sort of thing when they're choosing to go see this movie or not. I think that the main thing is that Warner Brothers has just put out so many DC films that are viewed as mediocre or even bad that the brand is really just kind of damaged at this point, and it's going to be difficult to get people excited about DC films now. Anyway, I'll go ahead and wrap this up. Let me know what you thought of the Suicide Squad in the comments, and please do like this video before you leave. Also, please sub to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.